tractor beam out of commission, or this is going to be a real short trip. Okay, hit it!
Nice. Hey, how's everybody doing?
All good. All good.
Thank you guys for jumping on, taking your time. We appreciate it. It's Saturday evening for you guys. Saturday afternoon for me. Jason would be on. I think he's not feeling great. He's sick. I don't know if it's COVID or if it's a cold or I don't know what he's got, but he's got something. So
same as me, probably.
Yeah, and then CC's working. So
I've got my lemon sip right here.
Yes, nice. That's beautiful.
Your Horlicks.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks guys for jumping on. We've got some interesting things to talk about tonight. I mean, I feel like there's a lot going on because I know it's not just all Star Wars stuff, but it's collectibles in general because of San Diego Comic-Con coming up. So there's a lot of like interesting things going on and people getting ready for that. I want to touch on our collections and just kind of see if there's anything new or anything changing or whatever. If there's anything you guys are expecting. And then we've got some interesting topics to talk about. And we'll chat towards the end about the some collectibles as well that we kind of want to talk about. But so far, let's start the conversation instead of talking about collectibles or our collections right away. Just so I get an idea of how things are going with Acolyte for you guys. Like I don't know if you've caught up, if you've gotten to the current episode or what, but how do you guys feel at this point? Anybody?
I watched is it number 7? Yeah, I watched that. Yeah, I watched that. Yes. Yeah, I did watch that yesterday.
That's the penultimate, right? Just clarify. We've only got one episode left.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, one episode. My opinion hasn't changed. I just think the writing's poor.
Sure.
Very, very poor. It's an interesting sort of story, I suppose, but I just think it's just been badly written. There's some interesting ideas in there. I think look at the lightsaber fights are cool. You know,
I thought they were really well. Good. I think they're pretty well done.
Very good. I think the acting is just it, and I don't think it's the actors. I just think it's the writing. It just feels a little bit in and out for me.
Yeah, sure.
And then the episode yesterday was obviously virtually a repeat of episode 3, but seeing it through
a different perspective.
A bit different perspective, but it didn't really tell us anything. I'm still a little bit confused, really, as to what is going on.
Sure.
It feels a little bit unfulfilling at the moment. It's just not hooking me.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I'm waiting sort of 2 or 3 days just to catch up with the episode because I feel I have to, because it's Star Wars. I feel I have to
give it a shot. Give it a shot.
But I mean, at least they've tried to do something different with a storyline. I mean, there's some different with different characters. I think some interesting ideas there. I just think it's been. If there's anything consistent with Disney, it's just been the writing across all of the shows, bar a couple of them, it's been poor.
There's Jason, poor sick Jason. He's joining us though, so that's good. That's nice.
So I don't want to. I don't hate the show or anything. I just it's just not. Yeah, it's just not grabbing me.
Yeah,
really not grabbing.
No, that's okay. It's interesting. I kind of want to hear what you guys are thinking so far. I think how long, what episode had we talked about? Like, where were we at? Is it episode 3, 2 or 3?
Probably 3. I think it was 3 last time we spoke. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's just interesting to hear.
The Witch. I think it was the Witches episode, wasn't it?
I think the one for me that I did think was pretty good actually was number 6, where where it was basically focusing on that. Like the assume he's a Sith or a Ren or whatever.
Yeah.
I think his performance has been really good.
Yeah.
I think he's a really interesting villain. Quite calm, calculated.
Yeah,
he's got an interesting backstory to him, but we've hardly seen him.
Yeah,
So,
no, I hear
Well, that's
you.
the thing. We've got 1 episode left to kind of fill out that backstory. Which, unless that episode's going to be over an hour long, I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, Parm,
really,
where you
really tell us
where
much.
you at? Where you at? What? I don't know.
I'm at this latest one, and I was I didn't think the last episode that's just aired was very good at all. I mean,
Okay.
I think the storytelling is pretty poor.
a little clunky.
Very clunky, and the whole reasoning for I don't know the guys. This is one thing about the show. I don't really connect with any of the character names, so I don't know half the names of the characters. But the guy that was the Padawan who was homesick, that was the catalyst for a lot of this stuff, and the guilt, which we're meant to think that these Jedi have done something incredibly bad, yet. They were put in a position where they essentially couldn't really do anything else, right? I mean, when that witch turned into whatever she turned into, and then Sol killed her. What was she expecting?
I think there's been some some convenient use of the Force or lack of it to sort of just to move the story forward. Things like Sol can't sense the difference, but I mean, it's obvious that he can't sense the difference between the twins. He can't sense one of them coming up behind him with a knife. That sort of. There's some really strange stuff going on with the Force, and look. This is
like
just,
when the bridges were falling. Why didn't you just grab the girls with the Force rather than the bridges? Why would if you could hold, that's.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
You can read into anything that Star Wars and pick holes in everything.
It's so tough because
that's just one of those things, right? But
so
this show, unfortunately, has presented so many holes that it's hard.
Yeah. It's tough for me because there's so many inconsistencies in Star Wars anyway. That it's hard for me to have a problem. Like as in someone the other day in a comment was saying that, this whole thing is made of stone and they set a fire in this thing and it's like all this fire's raging. And I'm thinking to myself, and they're like, how is that possible? Like, that's not possible. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, how's a lightsaber possible? Like, how is light speed possible? Like, Star Wars breaks all of these possibilities across like physics and all kinds of stuff. So why are we're
but the storytelling, I mean, you can take the the kind of the fantasy element but still make it believable. And I think I mean, again, I think the original trilogy, the way it did that was by making it very real world, right?
I'm okay with people not liking the story, some of the storytelling, let's say maybe some of the writing. I think the acting's fine, personally, but that said, like, I'm okay with some of that. I just don't necessarily appreciate the nitpicky. I feel like people are willing to nitpick things that they have an agenda against. Like, they don't want to be successful and they don't want it to be like a thing. And so they find every little possible thing that could be a problem and they nitpick, right? Versus, again, we're not doing that for how many things in Star Wars are we not doing that for? Right? Like, we're not doing that for episode 1, 2, and 3. I mean, everyone can watch that because it is what it is. Right. But, and it's been around for a long time. And I think that's a big part of why it's okay. But I'll reiterate, it's the worst writing and directing and acting in all of Star Wars. There's nothing worse in my opinion. And so but that doesn't necessarily mean that they should be spending a bunch of money and getting this kind of product. I agree with that. I agree with that. Like, I'll put my hands up and say, look, can they do better? Yeah, they should probably be doing better. But they also have really taken a lot of shots. Like, look at Jon Favreau writing Book of Boba Fett. That didn't work out. So like, I don't know what the problem is.
I mean, I can't understand. I mean, I can understand, the comments about the prequels. I mean, that was George's rodeo, wasn't it?
Sure.
I mean, he wrote that, he directed it. Nobody really told him that.
And he's just not the best. He's not the best guy.
He's just not that, but the story beats were there, but the whole sort of dialogue and stuff was pretty cringeworthy.
Right.
But they,
Episode 3 was fantastic.
The first two were pretty cringy. Revenge of the Sith was pretty good, but they've had a long run up with these Disney shows.
Yeah.
And you would think they would get somebody in the room,
Right.
And are they going to stab? And the reason I think people are being nitpicky is because the story in the Acolyte really doesn't make a lot of sense.
I hear what you're saying, Tony. The problem is I didn't hear the same thing when Obi-Wan was out. And I feel like Obi-Wan has a worse story, in my opinion.
Well, I said the same thing. Yeah, I mean, I've been consistent.
It's just not good enough, right? And I agree with you. I think it needs to be better. There's no doubt it needs to be better. And Randall's right. Good storytelling makes it fantastic, believable. That's absolutely true. And so I'm in this place where if you don't like it, that's fine. I have no problem with you not liking it. I'm not the type of person that's like, everyone needs to like this. Like, that's not my opinion. If you don't like it, you're more than welcome to not like it. I just want you to be able to tell me why you don't like it. Because if someone comes to me and says the word woke again, I will freaking chew myself in the head. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't throw a catch-all phrase like that and not be able to articulate your problems with it, right? Because that doesn't help Star Wars in general. That just doesn't help. Like, the creators go, well, what do you mean? Like, what are we supposed to, like, what do you want us to do? Like, we're just making things that we think we should make, but they're not gonna, stop taking it personally. Like, everyone needs to stop taking Star Wars so personal. They're not making things specifically for you. They're not making things for Nathan. They're not making things for Parm. They're making things for a bunch of people. And so, like, stop taking it personally and just understand that, like, yeah. Do I agree that they spent a lot of money and they should do better? Yes, I do. And I think they should have done that with Obi-Wan. I think they should have done that with Book of Boba Fett. The Mandalorian last bits of the seasons haven't been that great. So they need to do better. There's no doubt.
I think with a story, like in the Acolyte, with the story, I agree with you, Tony. Like you say, it's not really making sense. And I feel like partly because we've had 2 flashback episodes, and I just feel like they're just kind of put in the middle. I'm all for flashbacks and stuff, like we've had it in the other shows, and that's always good to see. But I feel like whole episodes on flashbacks, why not just put those episodes at the beginning, or I feel like a whole episode, because not progressing the main story really.
I mean, there is some interesting ideas there, but I mean, the last episode really, it felt a bit like episode 1 to me. A Virgins in the Force. I know where they're going with the twins. I mean, it's it just feels a little bit lazy, and then some of the. It is a shame, because at least I mean, to give it credit, it is. They are trying to do something slightly different. It's a different
time too. It's a different time, and like that's why, like, for me, I can easily watch this. I have no problems watching the show because, first of all, it doesn't have anything to do with any of the characters that we love necessarily, right? And so you can kind of just watch it and go like, oh, it's a new character. Like, I like Saul. I like some of the Jedi characters. I think they're cool. I think it's crazy. Some of the witch stuff that they've done is pretty nuts. I love the lightsaber fights. I think they're
very
honestly, I think they're very, very good. Some of the best I've seen in Star Wars. Like, I think and especially how they've shot them, I think has been very interesting.
We don't have lightsabers that are just baseball bats anymore.
Right.
Actually, like Kenobi show, it was just like, let's just hit
someone
with a lightsaber, and it just wouldn't go through them, and you're like,
yeah.
Okay. They do. I mean, the thing that is a little bit, and again, it comes back to the writing. Is the Jedi characters in there just seem a little bit. They don't seem like they're the power in the universe. They seem to be very Keystone Cops, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
They're running around with really no idea what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
it's just a bit. It's just a bit frenetic.
I do really like the idea that the Jedi have good intentions, but ultimately their good intentions will have come to ruin, essentially, like ruin the galaxy, like, or ruin like I like that idea, because I think that's something that's been echoed throughout Star Wars all along. Like, they really have good intentions. They want the best for the universe, but at the same time, some of the decisions they make are just not great. And I think we can see that with Soul and how it's all very personal for him. Like he's actually very much like making decisions based off of his own feelings, and that's just not helpful, right? I don't know. It's interesting. I tend to be able to watch this show without any problems personally.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I can watch it and think, because it's not touching in at all on the bits of Star Wars I like. Yeah. So
I have no problem. If they ruin Andor season 2, I'll have a problem.
Yeah,
it'll be really. I will be pissed because I really, really like that show, and that'll be an issue for me. But I also think I've said this before. I think it's a shame what they did to Obi-Wan, even though I do like parts of that show, and I think Hayden Christensen did great. I think, what's his face? Obi-Wan.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is always great. I just think it was not done well. Like, I just don't think it was as good as it should have been. And it's a bummer because he's such a big character, right? Like,
I don't think it helps. I mean, they were locked into using because of COVID. They were probably locked into using.
Yeah, you're right. The
filming in LA and the volume. So very, very few. If that had been filmed out on location and they really pumped, I mean, I don't know how much money they spent on the episodes anyway, but if they'd given that a really,
I agree,
and taken I don't think the Inquisitors were necessary. I think
it's almost too much.
I've said it loads of times. I would have kept it a very simple story, just between him and Hayden. You know, Ewan and Hayden, just the psychological.
And the Leia thing, I get that the Leia thing was to get him off the planet. I understand that, but that started.
Could have been another reason. Yeah, could have been
that's a whole nother.
Whole
other thing. Yeah,
that was a bit.
We want to stay on Tatooine for the whole series.
Right, exactly. That's a whole nother problem. But again, that comes back to Tony's point that during COVID, it was very tough. Like, although you should be able to go anywhere if you have the volume, you should be able to shoot for wherever you want to go. But they did. They leaned very heavily on.
But the volume of it, as fantastic as it is, you can almost. It does feel very. It does feel quite tight. It does feel very small. So I think they were limited. I think that was a bit limiting as well.
Yeah, and Darth Red said, "Have you watched House of Dragon? Season 2 has been great. You can see the showrunner and writers care about the world. Apart from Andor, we don't see that in Star Wars at the moment, and I can appreciate that.
That's a great. I mean, that's a great.
I really wish Star Wars, Disney, Lucasfilm would go that direction with some shows where they would really invest, like do the Game of Thrones, House of Dragon type of show where it's like a lot going on and you're jumping back and forth, and it's just very. They can do it. I just feel like they haven't gotten the right people to write and get behind the wheel.
I mean, the thing is with Star Wars as well, it's locked into 50 years of history, whether good or bad, and it's going to take somebody, I think, with real courage to and commitment, higher up in Disney, to say, right, we're going to really swing for the swing for the rafters, and we're going to just take this in a totally different direction. I don't, the only risky show I've seen really is Andor, in terms of I thought that was and they went a completely different direction with that, with tone, and it was more like felt like a thriller, an espionage thriller. Yeah.
Nathan, did you like Andor? Were you a fan of Andor?
So it took me a while to get into it. I thought it was quite slow at the beginning. I liked how, like, the first couple of episodes, it was kind of, you didn't really need to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was like a sci-fi kind of space show. And up until like the heist episode, I didn't really get into it as well. But as soon as like you went into the jail with Andy Serkis's character,
right?
I thought, and then they started getting the Empire involved a bit. I thought it really amped up. It wasn't, I know lots, especially you guys. I know everyone likes it, but I think, I love the Ahsoka show, but then that's I'm a people guy and Clone Wars, Rebels guy, whereas you guys are more OT. So
yeah, try.
I see it from like that side of it. As obviously you've got the emotional connection to it. Well, obviously I do as well. It's Star Wars. I love it, but
It was.
go
Go ahead, Parm.
I was just going to say it was a slow burn for me as well, but I think what really sold it was the script. It was the acting, it was the dialogue. It intrigued you. It made you kind of want to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
It didn't leave you on cliffhangers or anything like that in a cliched manner either. So it was just very well written. Aimed at perhaps more adult Star Wars OT
this goes back
fans.
This goes back to Darth Dread's point is somebody that actually cares about the show, that has puts its passion into it, which is why Tony Gilroy running that Andor show is a big deal, right? Because he's big on Rogue One. So,
and he's not a big Star Wars fan either. So you don't have to be.
No, you don't.
Thing, and sometimes I think it can be to a detriment.
You just need to tell a story.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the other thing Andor did really well was it split it into sort of like 3 episodes, didn't it?
Sure.
It's one of those which is designed probably to if you've never seen it before, you need to really binge watch it. But I think as an episodic show, it kept it fresh because it was regenerating parts of the story in 3s. You had the prison break, which was in 3. You had the original setup, which was in 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not looking forward to seeing Andor at all because I didn't think much of Cassian in Rogue One. But I said last time I was on the show, I think this show sits below Return of the Jedi for me in terms of the next best Star Wars. But there's lots of people that love the original trilogy that don't like Andor. It's not.
Sure.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah. See, Rogue One sits very high for me. Very, very high.
I just realized I have an Andor mug.
Yeah,
there you go.
Rogue One's really good, but it didn't. I think Andor is added to Rogue One.
Nice.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to get too. We don't have to go any further with it. I just kind of want to get an update of where you guys were at and how you feel about it. I know Jason has watched, gosh, I want to say he's watched I don't even know if he's watched the last episode.
No, not the most previous, but I watched the one the week before.
Right. Did you? And you didn't catch up to that point, did you, Jason, yet?
No, I just saw the one where at the end she puts the helmet on.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
Sorry for the
interesting.
spoilers, Jason.
Because I talked to Jason about this latest episode just a little bit, and he was asking me, so they continued the story about her putting the helmet on. I was like, no, they actually didn't touch on it at all. They went something very different. Yeah.
It just seemed kind of like a pivotal moment, right? Especially where it happens and then the show just ends. So it kind of seems like a dramatic sort of emphasize.
Sure.
So I did expect, I expected it to be a lead in to the next, for it to pick up next time. But hearing that wasn't the case, I found it to be interesting. Yeah. But again, as you mentioned, Matt, that I don't think this is meant to be a one and done. If they continue to go, there's a lot of story to build on.
I honestly, as much as people might be frustrated about that, I don't think this is a one and done, to be honest.
It's okay. I mean,
I think they're going to continue some of this stuff. So
I heard it got cancelled, but I think that's just wishful thinking from some people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's hard to know anymore what's what, because I feel like everybody wants what they want with this show, and if you like it, then you're like some sort of like Disney shill, and if you don't like it, you're like racist. And I don't think that's the truth. Like, you can not like it, it's fine. And still want, good things to come out of, Disney and Star Wars and all that stuff. Like, without being a shill for that. Like, I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I really want them to do well, because I want to see more, with Tony, I want to see more good stories come out of Disney and Star Wars. And, I want everything to continue, and I want to see more collectibles come out. Like, that's what I think we should all want, so that's the tough part. I don't like the other side of it either. I don't like people assuming that if you don't like the show, you've got some sort of like racist or misogynist or like some, you know what I mean? Like that's not
Yeah,
true either.
there's a negative agenda.
I mean, I think there are those things out there. There's shitty people out there. What are you going to do? Like, it is what it is. But that said, we should hopefully, you know, think the best of as many people as we can. And, man, let's hope for better. That's all I want. I want everything to do better. And I don't think trying to get something canceled that everyone worked really hard on is necessarily the best way to go. Like, I just think that I think there needs to be constructive criticism in a sense. Like, how do we get this better? Right. So that guy said, if you like the shows, you're a Disney show. If you don't like the shows, you're racist. I believe we just have to see how many people are watching these shows. Views will make a change. And that's true. That's true. I mean, what are the numbers? I have no idea what the numbers are.
The funny thing is those people that really complain and hate on it still watch the next episode so they can hate and complain about it more. Yeah. You know, that's quite funny. The one thing that I did see somebody say, and I know we shouldn't say that Star Wars is for kids, but it kind of is. And the one thing that one person said is the only opinion I care about is my son's, and my son loves it.
Yeah.
And that's fair enough, right? I mean, ultimately, you know, we've had, I mean, again, you know, as I said, OT for me, it's right up there. And because of my childhood, you know, rose tinted glasses, whatever you want to call it. But I'm very grateful to have been around at that time. And that's my Star Wars. Everything else is great. It's fine. It's fun. Sure. But, you know, I think we should give, you know, that opinion to the younger generation to see what they think about it.
No, I think you're right. And I think that's what's beautiful. That's what's awesome about children is there's no baggage.
Mm-hmm.
there's not all this baggage they bring to the viewing experience. They just watch it and have fun and watch Star Wars for what it is. It's lightsabers that are not real, right? Like physics that doesn't really work, like lightsabers and light.
They're not going to question everything that we just questioned, and
no, they just want to watch the show and have a good time, and that's great. I love that.
And
Mike has loved the sequels. They really enjoyed them. That's great.
And that's fair enough, right? Yeah, and that takes me to one saying that I'm very fond of, and I hark back to this as well. You know, if and when I can, and that is, and you probably know this because it's an American president that said this, and is that comparison is the thief of all joy. And I think when we constantly compare whatever it is, but in particular in this instance, we're comparing it to what's gone in the past, what we loved, we're not going to enjoy this, right? It's not going to be as good as that peak moment of Star Wars in your childhood.
Of course.
It isn't. But we do compare it, and that's what we do. And then it takes that enjoyment out of it.
Human nature.
It is human, yeah.
And that's all I'm trying to get people. Not that no one cares what I say, but at the same time, I'm just trying to put out there that, like, look, you can compare and contrast all you want, but just do it constructively and do it like fairly, right? Don't do it with, like you said, rose tinted glasses where all of a sudden you're like, episode 1 and 2 are the best thing ever. And then this has bad writing and acting. It's like, I'm sorry. I just have a hard time hearing what you're saying. Like, I can't, there's stuff in episode 1, 2. I have to speed through every time I watch it. I just can't watch everything. And it's just, that's not the case with The Acolyte. I have not seen something where I'm just like, oh, I got to speed through this. This is crazy. Like, so all I'm saying is that you've got to have a good idea, be able to compare and contrast in at least somewhat with a brain, and understand that, like, it's not for you, but it may be for somebody else. That's okay. Exactly. That's totally fine.
I think the other thing as well is, just going back to what I said earlier, was the fact the body of work of Star Wars is huge. It goes back 50 years. There's people with so many different generations now. They're going to have different views on it.
Yeah.
Different opinions on it. I mean, I'm just going to, like Palm said, I'm just going to hark back to the OT. But what concerns me is just the people that are now doing these shows for Disney are sort of, they're almost damned if they do, damned if they don't, because they've got to try. They feel they have to cater for somebody my age.
Yeah,
then they have to aim for their target audience, and then it ends up being this sort of, all these shows end up being a bit of a mishmash. I mean, going back to Obi-Wan, the Inquisitors was something that's new, whereas the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin is something that we grew up with as kids. and they mash this show together to try and make, trying to appease everybody. And sometimes you've just got to be brave and say, this is the story I want to write. Well, what story do I want to write? This is the story I'm going to write.
Yeah.
And I believe in it, and whoever the director is, and you just got to do it. You can't just keep, I've got to cram a lightsaber in. It's a cool fight.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
And DCDC says the issue is that Disney chronically attempts to blame fans in the most inappropriate ways for poor ratings. Disney has changed dramatically in the past 5 years, where identity politics is number one. And I can understand
I think that's partially true. I do think blaming the fans is now. At first I didn't read into that, but now I'm starting to feel that there is some weight behind that.
No, and that's not okay. Here's the other side of it is that I don't think that's okay. I do think Star Wars fans are really frustrating, and that's, you have to be able to understand that, right? Like, I think it's really hard to make something for Star Wars. And what I'm concerned about is that all of us are going to make it harder and harder and harder and harder for anyone to have success making Star Wars stuff. That's my concern, because if we just throw tomatoes at people every time they try to make something because it's not our Star Wars, or it's not our, like, we don't like that they're putting things in there that, by the way, are in the world today. Like, if you think Star Wars is doing identity politics, it's like, I have a hard time understanding how that is a thing, because you walk around your daily life and there's that stuff everywhere. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. It makes sense to me that anybody would put those things into a universe or a world, because that's the world we live in. I just don't get it. I don't get the problem with it personally. But that said, like, I can understand why it can be a frustration. I just see the other side of it and go, like, it would also be very frustrating to work your ass off on something that you have poured yourself into, and all of a sudden you get review bombs in some cases, right? You get, like, some of these things are real, some of these things are happening, and that's got to be really frustrating. But on the other side of it, yes, it's not okay for them to, Disney shouldn't blame fans no matter what. It's just not smart. It's not smart.
Fans pay the bills. Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Well said.
Talking about that, like, one of my clients, he worked on Andor and the Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying how everyone was moaning about how the Wookiee got killed straight away, didn't do anything. And he was like, yeah, there's going to be, like, some epic fight in a couple of weeks. So everyone needs to wait until it comes out and then make a decision on it, without sort of jumping the gun. And complaining about stuff.
I mean, this is the problem sometimes when you review the episodes. We haven't seen although we are getting close to the wire for them to. They've got a lot to tie up, and it is difficult to to review the whole show without seeing all of it. But
I think that's why Netflix released everything all at once, right? It's just much easier to review something in its entirety than it is to really on an individual basis. Yeah.
It's honestly really smart, especially for a show you're not sure about is going to do, like, well or not. I think it's better to put it out all at once, because then you have the whole show to like.
You got the option of binging it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really smart. So I don't know. I it's tough. I hear both sides of these arguments from different perspectives, like DCDC and Dark Dread. Some of these other people, like, I get it. I see both sides of it. I don't know, man. It just, for me, again, like, I just don't take it personally. Like, I just feel like they're just making a show, and watch it if you want, don't if you don't, and that's okay. Like, hopefully they do better. Hopefully they get better. And if you think they should be doing good stuff now, I would agree with that. Like I don't know. I agree with that. Like, I have no problem.
It's all subjective, though, isn't it? I mean, we could get 10 people on here now that would shoot us down, coming up reasons why the Acolyte is fantastic, or Kenobi is fantastic. It's just opinions, but I can't. I'm struggling to for me, it just comes. It's all been about the writers that they've had and the stories they've told. It's got nothing to do with the actors, what they look like, what they do.
Of course,
it's got nothing to do with that at all. It's whether the story locks me in. All I want to do is be invested in a story, and they've done it once so far with me, and I want them to keep. We want them to keep releasing shows, but I'm getting concerned that people at Disney are looking at this go, they may just say, well, we're not going to bother, we'll just stop making Star Wars, and if they do, they do. But
going back to Mark's comment, I actually think that a break would be good. I think there is a sense of
where is that? That was this one.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. I think
I agree. Yeah, sure.
Too much of a good thing, right? And you will
honestly, Marvel's suffering from that too currently. Just there's a lot out there. DCDC says, Matt, it's out there and that's fine. However, those that identify with that lifestyle are the minority of fans. Disney has isolated its primary fan base. As a result, Star Wars fans can be horrid. Yeah, which I agree with that. But it's tough. I honestly I hear you that's a minority of fans. I just think it's real life. That's why I think it's okay to see that. Like it's, I don't think those things are going to change in life. As in, like, if you want them to or not, I personally don't have a problem with it. I just think if you do, that is the life we live in. And that's the universe that I think Star Wars is really. Star Wars would be much crazier, in my opinion, because there's all kinds of aliens and sticking tentacles in all kinds of places. Like, I think it would be pretty nuts that we don't see any of that kind of stuff. So
that's Tony, you should mention, that's one of the good things about the Acolyte is that there are a lot more aliens and different.
Yeah, there is.
Because some of I think it was Kenobi or something. It was just like humans everywhere.
And Andor. Andor had virtually no aliens.
Yeah, and
that's right. Yeah,
but in this, obviously, quite a lot of the Jedi are aliens, and but we've seen other people as well. So I like that. That's a bit sort of
refreshing. And look, it's interesting. And DC, this would be an interesting conversation to have at some point. As I don't know if DC, if you've seen The Boys, but the boys is like The Boys, like if there was ever like a liberal show, which I love it because I'm more of a liberal person, but like it is very hardcore, like anti-right, like everything they write is like very liberal, and like that is one of those shows where I'm like, look, that is like a slap in the face. Like that's like a liberal writing a show to make it feel that way, right? I don't feel like they're doing that in Star Wars. I don't feel like that's what's happening. I just feel like they're trying to represent what is in the world, and who people are. I don't know. It's interesting. Chris Mills, it's funny because Chris Mills said, would love the writers from The Boys to write a Star Wars series.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
No, I can't. The Boys have you guys seen The Boys, by the way?
I've just started watching it. I'm only on season 1, episode 3. So
it is the craziest show I've ever seen in my life. My daughter, just because she's heard about some things here and there, she asked me what The Boys, like what's the deal with The Boys? And I was like,
you're never watching that.
I honestly feel horrible that I watch it, but at the same time, like I love it to death. Like it's so good. But it is the worst show. It's the worst show ever. Like they do so much crazy shit in that show. It's unbelievable.
I'll tell you what is good. Dark Matter on. I've just started watching that on Apple. That's really good. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Yeah, really good.
Dude, Apple TV is honestly the best shit.
It is great. It's really good
content.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Dark Matter? I know we're going off topic.
I haven't. No.
I'm episode 3 at the moment.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's very sci-fi and crazy.
Yeah,
and weird.
yeah.
It's worth watching.
Yeah.
DZD says, I don't mind alternative lifestyle. It just seems that Disney really wants it out there. Well, yeah. I agree, Matt, with what you were saying. Toxicity runs wild, and The Boys is hysterical. It's so crazy. And yeah, I would have to agree with that. And I think, Jason, you'd probably agree with this. Disney does tend to lean that direction. And I think that's everyone would agree with that. I think they are very open to that those alternative lifestyles type of things. I agree with that. I just feel different, a little bit differently, that I think we kind of should be showing how the world is in the real, in how the world actually is in life. And, whether you like it or not, I think that's one of those things where it's like, just don't take it personally. I just don't think it's, I just don't, I try not to take things like any of that kind of stuff personally. So anyway, we can get off that topic. I just really wanted to see kind of where you guys were at. It's really interesting to see kind of where everyone's at on that. So let me get Jason back on. Let's get into talking real quick about San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know if there's a lot to talk about, because I don't know if you guys have a lot to talk about with Comic-Con, but it's coming up. Like, it's coming up in the next couple weeks or something like that. Is it not this next week? It's a couple weeks from now. Jason and CC are coming out to San Diego, which is cool. So we'll be hanging out and doing that, which is awesome. But have you guys seen anything that's exciting to you? I mean, we'll be seeing, I'm sure, I don't think Sideshow is there, but they will be doing their Sideshow like con around the same time. Anything that's kind of jumped out at you guys?
Only Regal. I think Regal Robot apparently are going to be announcing some new stuff there. That's the only thing I've heard. I've not heard much about San Diego Comic-Con at all. I don't know. Perhaps there's not so much Star Wars focus, this year, given there's no new movies coming out. Although perhaps they reserve that stuff for Celebration anyway. Yeah. And I think there was a trailer for the new Captain America movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I saw that the other day.
Well,
I guess that's probably timed for San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, honestly, Parm, that's one of the fun things about San Diego Comic-Con. We'll probably be seeing a bunch of trailers coming out, a bunch of new things coming out, like them talking about us. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Like, that's actually one of the cooler things about it.
Sure.
I think Jason and Cece and I are probably going to try to go see Deadpool and Wolverine together, which is fun because that comes out around that time. So that'll be a blast. So there'll be some things like that, but there are some specific things like this that are interesting.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Have you guys seen the prototype for this? Like or at least the drawings of it?
It was an illustration, yeah. And it was Luke climbing the ladder.
So there's like a piece of X-Wing and he's climbing the ladder up to it. It could be really cool. Listen, they've been kind of knocking things out of the park lately, in my opinion. They've been doing a pretty good job. I haven't seen a premium format that I'm like, I have to get that. But I haven't seen a premium format where I'm like, that doesn't look like that character. And like, it looks really bad, kind of. I think they've been doing a pretty killer job, which is great. So I'm fascinated to see what this looks like at the end of the day. For
sure.
Because that could look great in a ESB collection or whatever. Like, there's some really cool stuff you could do.
They haven't done a Luke Skywalker for some time, though, have they? I think I can't remember the last time they did a Luke.
I think they did.
I believe they
redid Bespin, didn't they?
They
right. Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't very great. Like, it's hard to make Luke look like he got hit by a car, right? Like it's hard to get that look out of him because he's got that wonky eye a little bit, and like it's just kind of weird. And I feel like it's just really hard to do Mark Hamill. So no, other than the XM Luke, I think is
incredible.
It's an incredible statue.
Yeah.
I would love to have them.
They're also doing it. They're also doing a young representation of him,
right?
And where I think XM Luke is probably one of the best representations of Luke across statues, hot toys, etc. They did have a little bit of artistic liberty with the helmet sort of hiding some features. So that kind of throws it off a little bit because your eye kind of draws away from any imperfections, but it is an amazing statue. So I'm looking forward to this because you're right. It's been a while since Luke's been represented in a premium format or any other statue other than the XM. There's previous ones, but they've been pretty rough to say the least. Yeah. So yeah, this would be exciting, and if they can do it right, that's pretty promising. I think it's a good,
Well, they have that one, and then they have. Let me see if I can go back. They have this one too.
Mm.
So they're doing a Cad Bane as well, which is cool. You know, I think I think Sideshow just released a 6th scale figure of Cad Bane.
Yes.
Didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was, as far as I'm aware. I don't know. I went to check earlier, and it's still up for pre-order, so I don't know whether it's officially released yet or.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got the animated ones there, so I'll be probably getting that one. But
Yeah. But this one could be really cool if they how depending on how they do it.
Mm.
I don't think I'd jump on this, but man, that Luke is really tempting. That if it's done right, I love Luke stuff.
Yeah, I think you get a little bit of the fuselage as well, don't you, with the ladder going up as well. So I think that'd be really. It is really interesting looking statue from the limited pictures we've seen of it. But
and Darth Dread's asking, or saying how will it compare to the NYC one? He's intrigued by that, and it's a fair point. I mean, it's nice for people because there's no way you're going to get your hands on that NYC piece, very likely. So it's a nice option for them to make something like that. And I would argue that Sideshows is probably going to be a little more understated than NYC's. NYC's base is massive for that. For that statue.
Have we seen any pictures of this? Or
no, I don't think so yet.
No.
What I think they're doing is they're getting you hyped about. They're probably going to show some of this stuff at their
the
Sideshow con thing that's at the same time. But Chris Millen says, I ordered the OB premium format after seeing it on this show. Honestly, that's. Are you talking, Chris? Are you talking about the Mythos one? It's beautiful. The Mythos one's gorgeous. It's very, very beautiful. I just think, and Randall's saying the same. New Mythos OB one looks very nice. They're killing it, man. I just feel like they're doing a great job, and well
priced as well, aren't they?
They're well priced. They're very well priced, and that's fantastic news as well. I'm not a huge fan of Sideshow's premium format style of like putting clothes on statues necessarily. I just don't. It doesn't do much for me. I like more sculpted stuff, but I still think they've done a great job with that. I still think OB1 looks unbelievable with real clothes, like actual clothing on. Like it just looks great. So, but that's something that you're going to have to pose yourself and make look good, right? Versus having it already sculpted. So, so those are coming out. I'm trying to think if there's any other announcements that I've seen. Honestly, Jason and I were talking about this the other day. There's not a hell of a lot of Star Wars stuff that we've seen as either exclusives or, hey, we're coming out with this thing. Was
there quite a Gentle Giant were releasing quite a few busts, weren't they? I saw General Grievous, Jawa, something else.
Gentle Giant.
Yeah, I saw the Jawa.
Let me see.
Right,
Luke. I think that was a Luke. I think that was a training. Yeah, Luke in a training helmet. I think. I could be wrong.
Hasbro tend to have some exclusives, don't they? But
Hasbro do, yes. Hasbro do.
Yeah.
The problem with the Star Wars exclusives, and I mentioned this to Matt earlier, like good example was Celebration, right? There was a couple of exclusives last year at Celebration, and it was all a matter of like, wait in line at this time, scan this QR code, get this flyer.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where like, nothing was exclusive about it. This stuff was readily available. Some of it you can get for less than retail a couple days after the con. Some of it you can still buy on HasLab now as we speak, like the exclusive Vader Black Series figure. Like that was something I wanted, and I actually like sat and I waited and I scanned the QR code and I did the whole exclusive nonsense. And yeah, they went up on HasLab for like $20 and they're still available. It's like that's the annoying part when if you step outside of like Funko and Mondo and some of these more niche companies, an exclusive really isn't an exclusive anymore. At least when you're dealing with the larger, NECA, Mattel, Hasbro, it's just tough because they have to produce so much to satisfy the need. But I haven't seen too much other than like Tony had mentioned the Gentle Giant bits, and then I think there was the the mall on Speeder and sort of like the Phantom Menace packaging from the 2000s.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if anybody in the chat, if you think of anything that's coming out, SDCC coming up, exclusives, whatever, just let us know if you want us to look at something. But yeah, it's been interesting not seeing a hell of a lot from some of the bigger people, but again, like Sideshow probably will come out with stuff, and that'll be fun. Hot Toys will probably very definitely come out with stuff. Not that they need to. They've been.
Oh yeah, they've been killing. Yeah,
jeez, poor Nathan.
Yeah.
Did you see? It's not San Diego Comic-Con related, but the HasLab from
Cantina.
The Cantina set. Yeah, it looks like it's been not fully backed. I think there's just one figure that they didn't get to, but I think it's that looks like an interesting.
We'll look at that in a little. We'll look at that.
I'm curious about that. I wanted to see it. I liked a lot of what they were offering as unlock, additional unlock features, but I don't think they got that far because it would have been cool, one, to have all those aliens, and then two, like let's say Imperial Walker Inc. does another signing of Rick Baker. How cool would that be to have a vintage style carded figure signed by Rick? Because this would be the first time you ever see a version of his pieces.
I did think of that when they announced the Wolfman, the one that Rick Baker did the mask for. Because Imperial Walker Inc. have only just they've just sent all the prints out, haven't they, with the Rick Baker signings on? So
this is the one you're talking about.
I think that would have been good stuff.
Yeah. I think this is great because it's modular, so you don't have to. You can just have a few of the iconic scenes set up. So if you've got a small display, I like it. I mean, it's Cantina. I like it. I think it's good.
It's really cool. I mean, look, it's
a lot of cups, Matt. It's a lot of cups in this.
There's a lot. Look at all these cups. I think it's really cool. Look, the cool thing about the way they do this thing is it's so neat that they have stretch goals, right? That depending on how many people they get to do things, they come out with new figures and new characters and things. That's cool. That's fun. But yeah, you're right. This is modular and you can could probably display how you kind of want, but that's pretty cool, dude. It's not something I would get, obviously, but if you're a vintage,
great world building though, isn't it? You don't have to use it for the OT. You can have Mandalorian or do what you want with it. It's just so great. But yeah, there's a lot of cups on this. There's a picture, I don't know if it's on there, but it shows you the breakdown of the kits. There's about 200 cups.
Look at this guy, dude. Look at this guy. They got the hair on him.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Got the nose right.
Yeah.
Some of them are actually pretty cool.
Not bad.
I think the big. I mean, I'm not. This is sort of modern vintage, but They've got the Tonica sisters, which was a big. I think a lot of the vintage collectors, the modern collectors, have been screaming for that set to come out. So, then you've got. I can't even pronounce that. Is it? I can't even. I'm not even going to have a go at that. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that hasn't been. They didn't get the stretch goal to, but I think I think they might release that. I think that's great. This is the classic Rick Baker. That got cut from the it got cut in the special edition. In fact, both of his Wolfmen, which I think are some of the best original Cantina creatures in the original cut.
He's got his blue milk. Freaking
yeah. I think it's seriously cool that.
And so this one they did get, right?
They did get this one. Yeah. The World War II gas mask. It's just brilliant.
Crazy.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
Is this the one that doesn't Tom have this?
Yes, I think he does.
Right? He has this mask or this.
I think he does. Yeah. He actually he redid the Wolfman mask as well. I think. I think he mentioned it in his group chat last week. He said he'd got the Rick Baker mask and he'd renovated it. I just think it's so cool. I just think it's great.
Random girls, like
yeah, that's the Tonica sisters. Yeah, apparently they never released the 3.75. I think the actress kicked off, I think, years ago about using the likeness, so they never released it, and now obviously they have. So,
I mean, this is cool, but like, if you're a oh, like here it is.
Look, there you go.
My gosh, dude!
Look at those
Holy
cups.
shit! Wow, you invite anybody, invite everybody over. That's nuts.
I'd definitely get.
And doesn't this take up this takes up a footprint of like 2 feet by 3 feet, doesn't it?
Yes, it's sizable. Yeah, it's big. It's big.
We have the Lego set, and that's a fairly sizable set, and that's obviously a much smaller scale. So I can imagine this being pretty big.
Dude, that is crazy. That is crazy looking, man. I mean, it's cool. I would despair if I was a Star Wars vintage collection collector, because there's just so much. Dude.
There's so many. Because I've been quite interested in this, not buying it at all, but just the release itself, and then watching a few YouTube channels with the modern vintage collectors, and they're backtracking like crazy now, trying to find because there's a load of modern aliens you can buy.
Sure.
Of course, now they're eBay prices. Suddenly they've gone from like $20 up to sort of old vintage figure prices. $100, $150 for some of these aliens, because they're trying now. It's been backed. Everyone's backtracking, trying to populate.
At that point, when you're paying that much for those figures, particularly if they're on a card, you won't want to remove them, right? And, I think that's the dilemma a lot of these collectors have, is that they want to collect the figures that go with with this particular set, but they won't want to remove them from the card. They'll want them.
His collector madness. There's people buying 2 or 3 of these sets,
right?
Just to keep the cards.
Exactly, absolutely. I think that's what we're going to see. People backing multiple so that they can open a set and keep.
No way, dude.
This is a set that's got to be open for me. You can't keep this in a box. You've got to have it out and get it displayed.
I mean, you would think so, but man, I don't know. I mean, some of those figures they're gonna want, they're gonna have to get multiples, like you said, to be able to display something and keep it carded. Like, geez, that'd be a freaking nightmare.
Star Wars collectors are crazy.
I know.
Yeah,
they are.
It's a great offering. I think it's great.
It is. It is. It's really cool that they're putting that out there, and it's actually like, I mean, it's reasonable. You could, I mean, I know it's somewhat sizable, but it's not crazy. Like, you could fit this in some sort of little, like some sort of collection shelf or whatever, and make it work. I think.
I think there's a lot of collectors that are just going to break it down, have it spread over different parts of their room, and just have different setups and scenes. And I think that's the beauty of it. You can either have it on a huge coffee table or something, or just break it into the little alcoves and just have Han and Greedo or whatever. Because I think Hasbro are going to start releasing. I think they're going to release Han and Chewie again. Don't know about Chewie. I think Han's definitely coming.
So
in the year. Not in this set, but they're in later on.
Yeah.
Now it's been back. They're going to start releasing some modern figures just to populate some of the classics. So I think they might. I saw
Luke.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Luke.
Well, OG Fan says in this vintage collection community, it's a badge of honor kit bashing and creating all the figures in the cantina, and also from Jabba's palace. So is this a good thing then? Like does that take away from that? Or
well, there's loads of people that've got custom like aliens and stuff that they've just bashed together themselves. I think just use the cantina as you see fit. It doesn't have to be locked into one era.
Right.
That's the beauty of the sort of imagination of some of these 3.75 collectors. They haven't had, some of these figures haven't been released, like the Wolfman and stuff like that. And we've seen there's customs out there that they've made.
Yeah, he said no, it adds to it. It adds to
it.
Which makes sense. Because you're getting some of the characters too that you can Can put
It
into
looks
You
good
see
now.
that with
Yeah.
I was going to say, you see that even with the 6 scale with the Jabba's Palace. A lot of people have created or recreated, the Jabba's Palace with the sideshow
right.
Jabba on throne, and there's a lot of custom figures that you see in people's displays, because obviously Hot Toys nor sideshow have released some of those creatures.
And Randall says it's modular, so the collector has lots of options for display in a small space, which is true. Great. Very true.
I've seen some custom cantinas actually. There's quite a few out there that people have made over the years. They look fantastic.
Yeah.
So especially when you pack them out with creatures and stormtroopers and whatever it is you want to put in there, cups.
I'm sure we'll see some with just the original vintage figures. People will buy this.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
The original.
Let's talk real quick. I mean, since we're talking collectibles, let's talk through. Hold on one second. Let me get this up, because I think we can get Nathan involved here with some of this, some of these goings on that's been happening lately. Man, I mean, Hot Toys, they've
pulled the dump valve button, haven't they?
They just won't stop. It's crazy, dude.
Every morning I get a notification on my phone. Hot Toys.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. I don't.
Commander just keeps tagging me and everything now, and he's like,
Nathan, quick, pre-order.
Yeah.
Hold
Let me get this out. Okay. I'm pulling it up here, guys. Sorry. All right, here we go. This is what I want to talk about. Yeah, so Nathan, I'm having trouble understanding the difference between any of these. Like, they all look the same to me, and I know they're not the same. And that's just my ignorance of clone troopers, obviously.
So
but like, they have, it's what? The ARC Trooper 5s, and then it's, what's the other ones that are coming? Echo. So Echo's his own. He's one of the 5, or
so they're basically, they start. Have you seen the Clone Wars?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, they're part of there's like the clone cadets group.
Yeah,
and you've got like some of the hard case and some of the other ones. Some of the other ones they die quite early on, but Echo and 5s they do really well. They become ARC troopers. So this is them in their ARC trooper outfits.
ARC trooper outfits.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure. I think apart from the helmets and the helmets are slightly different. It's a repaint of. I mean, it's a repaint of Jesse that came out last year. He's an ARC trooper.
Are these redos of the 2 sideshow ones that released about 4 or 5 years ago?
The sideshow ones were going for crazy money. Like you're
they
talking
were really
about
good.
£1,000 for both of them, maybe more. And obviously that's dropped massively. But yeah, the redos, and obviously sideshow clones are good for their time. But
I know people go crazy. I know people go crazy for these things, but yeah, OG Fan says these are the most wanted clone troopers by a ton of Hot Toys collectors, which is that's awesome. I mean, honestly, I'm happy for you Hot Toys collectors getting a lot of Star Wars stuff. It's really, really cool. Like you're getting a lot of really good shit, and they're not holding back, man. It's really cool. It's just it's got to be nerve-wracking a little bit. I mean, there's so much to buy.
Well, I mean, obviously the last show I wasn't on, and I heard you guys listened back to it, and you were talking about me how I've not. I must be a bit overwhelmed with it all, and not much space left. So
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I've come up with an idea of how to. I've decided to
move house.
Are you going to evict your grandparents?
He's got a strategy.
Yeah. So I'm going to move into the main house. They're going to move into the annex.
You're going to remove the kitchen.
Yeah. That's already been done.
So what are you going to do, Nathan?
So I've got some Calaxes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make like a whole shelf just for the 5 first.
Okay.
So I'm gonna because there's a picture. I don't know if you've got any of the pictures there, Matt, or not, but there's a specific picture they put on. There's like 5 of them on there.
Yep.
That one, yeah.
Yep.
And I saw that, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want that." I've got
Nice.
the 3 of them already. So the other 2, and then
Have they
I've got
released? Have they
the other-
released? They've Rex is in the middle, is he?
Yeah, so you got Rex.
Yeah.
Jesse, Apo, who's one of the ones that came with the
Bike.
speeders, but
Yeah.
I bought the set and sold the speeder
So-
because I want Apo.
Nathan, which one of these are the ones that they're releasing? Is it the
So,
one? the left?
so 5s is the one on Rex's left, and
Okay.
and Echo is the one on his right. I believe.
Okay.
I think.
They're
I
one
hope I'm
right
right.
next to him. One's right next to him.
Yeah. So the one either side, yeah, and then you got Jesse and Apo on the
Okay.
flanks. But yeah, I've decided to do that, and then that frees up like almost 2 shelves. So
Yeah.
I've got space for more droidicas and
Honestly,
and
Nathan,
whatever
the
else
way
come
they
out.
did this like background, this blue background, this like kind of like a bluish background is really cool with this look.
Yeah.
Like it works really well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do like a big diorama and have like a Geonosis kind of. battle.
How many Hot Toys have you got on order at the moment, or are you
Well,
in double figures?
I don't know actually.
Is your girlfriend watching, Nathan?
Typical collector doesn't know what he's
I
got
just-
on order.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Pamela,
Denial.
I don't know. But no,
Just checking.
I've got a few on order, but I don't really pre-order as much as I used to anymore.
Yeah.
But there's I've got a whole list of ones that I want, and luckily quite a lot of them fit into existing because obviously I've got my dioramas and stuff. Quite a lot of them, like we've got like Return of the Jedi Endor Han, who's going to just slot into my Endor display, and there's other figures for that as well.
This is a true comment here, Nathan. OG fan says by adding figures I free up space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, oh no, I just have to move things along. I bought I got my inner Gandalf, and he's in his own little.
That's a
cabinet.
good looking figure. It's a nice figure.
I'm laughing, Nathan, because it's like listening to myself. Really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sort of see a few that I would sell. You know, there's a couple there that I don't mind getting rid of, but it's getting to a point where there's a diorama, a specific scene in each, and it's going to get to a point where I can't add.
Yeah.
Anymore,
Are you getting the droidicas?
Well, again, I would like a droidica. It'd be quite cool to have, but
Oh, you need to
well,
for the diorama.
no, but yeah, but they're huge, and also I don't know what character they go with. I'd just probably have to have them fighting the clones or something, I guess. But yeah, it's
great.
It's
It's
a
great
struggle.
they're doing all this. It's just there's an awful lot.
Yeah.
and then I mean, it's not even
Looks great.
start
Though.
mentioning all the Ahsoka figures that are coming out, like the Sabine and
Yeah, right.
Hera and Chopper and all that, and I'm like, yeah, worried. I've got my inner Aragorn turning up soon, which is.
They're about to
exciting.
release Thrawn, aren't they? Thrawn, Kenobi.
Thrawn, yeah. Because they had.
I mean,
yeah,
that Ahsoka line's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm a big Rebels fan as well, and I think that's why I enjoyed Ahsoka so much. But yeah, you've got basically the whole, apart from Kanan and Zeb, you've got like the whole team there with like Hera and Sabine and Chopper and well, actually Ezra, so half the team. But it's pretty epic. But yeah, you have to be a bit more. I have to be picky, let's say now. But yeah, these guys.
It does make me laugh that Tamura Morrison's likeness is probably the most used likeness in all of Star Wars collections.
Yeah.
I've got like 5 Tamura Morrisons.
Yeah. I wonder how much. Do you think he makes money every time they use his likeness on a figure?
Could do.
Or do
Or do you think it's a one-time deal?
I don't know.
Use
That's
this
a good
multiple
question.
times?
I mean, it's interesting because it's like, yeah, they make subtle changes, very subtle changes to them here and there. You know, obviously like tattoos and some other things, but yeah.
The ones I really like are the Bad Batch.
Yeah, but isn't it
Yeah.
once he signs his likeness away?
That's it. Yeah, perhaps.
It could be,
Perhaps.
yeah. It could be.
Yeah.
Is that correct or no?
I suspect it is. I just
Probably,
feel for
yeah.
him if it is, because he's probably missing out on a
Yeah.
ton of royalties.
Yeah, they're really using the shit out of him.
Probably
I mean,
all of these.
Jason, you're not getting
It
any
always
of these,
reminds
right?
me that. It always reminds me that. No. I don't know much about them.
Yeah.
But it always reminds me of that joke that Carrie Fisher used to say all the time, where she goes, "Every time I look in the mirror, I
Look in the mirror.
$100."
I give. That's right. Yeah, that's quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so you're gonna get. You said, Nathan, you got 3, and you're getting the 2 new ones, right? So is that correct?
What? Oh, of these, yeah. So I've got Rex, Jesse, Apo. I've got and Vaughn, and I've got more than 3. I know the heavy clone as well, and there's going to be about and I'm going to get these. And if they release,
it's cool looking,
if they
man.
could release the whole 501st Legion, I'd probably buy it.
Yeah, I hear you. It's cool looking.
I'm a sucker for
definitely-
clones. I do like my clones.
Yeah, Tamara Morrison's
And that
gonna
works.
be, I think. No, I'm happy for you, Nathan. I think it's really cool that
Glad
for
someone
a
is.
minute there wasn't a whole lot going on, so it's nice to see them
No, it's
really
nice.
pumping them out.
It's I weirdly had like a dream that I'm sure we've all had it, but where something was released and then I woke up and these guys are out and I was like, oh, cool.
It was a wet dream, by the way,
Yeah, well,
which is cool. That's fine.
well, I told you that in confidence, man.
I love it, dude. No, this is cool, man. I'm excited for you, dude. I really am. It's gonna be really cool for you to have, especially if you're making dioramas out of these things. And
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to use a specific background, Nathan?
Yeah, probably for these guys, probably like a Geonosis or something like that, maybe.
Sure. Yep.
Not 100% sure, but yeah, I do like the idea of doing the what's it called? You know when the Umbara is like the story in Clone Wars where the General Krell, the Jedi, turns on the
Yeah, I saw that.
guy with
episode.
the 4 lightsabers.
Yeah.
He turns on the clones. I quite like that, like those episodes. So
Yep.
But it's quite hard to make something like that. Whereas Geonosis is fairly simple. So I might just stick to that.
Let's talk about let's move on and talk about this guy real quick. I know this is like a 180, but this is like kind of a random thing that came out. Like I just is really interesting.
What scale is it?
Sideshow's base.
This is life size, isn't it?
It's life size, and they are. I mean, they're basically. It's almost like they just straight up stole Sideshow's base. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is going to be massive. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the Sideshow because they just did the head.
Yeah,
And that thing is huge. But now you've got the armor and the shoulder pads. I've seen pictures of it. This does look really. I mean, the price on it is great.
Yeah,
it does look really, really good. But it's huge.
What
it's
do you-
massive.
Put this next to your Chewie, Matt.
what's that?
Put this next to your Chewbacca.
I had to get rid of Chewie because it's so big. It was too big.
This is up there.
Yes,
This is
it's
up
way
there with
too
that
big.
size. This is up there with Chewbacca.
I couldn't,
think.
Nathan. I couldn't. Every time I walked in my room, it was like that's all that you could look at. Like the only thing you could lay is so big.
Oh, wow.
And so like I just couldn't do it anymore. It's just that I've started to get rid of bigger things in my collection just because it's just too much in a smaller room. But no, this is crazy. I mean, what's everyone's thoughts on like? Okay, so they're doing the signature thing, right? It feels very Regal Robot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I did wonder whether what Tom's thoughts would be on this, given he has the license for life size busts and stuff, particularly creatures.
Right.
These guys seem to have produced quite a variety of things, right? They did the Book of Boba Fett blaster. They did a Han Solo DL-44.
Wampo as well.
Then they've done a bunch of ships.
Yep.
Recently, and then now they're getting into creature bus, so they're kind of almost ticking a lot of boxes. You know, across, I guess, various specialties.
And I wonder with the licensing situation, Parm, if this has anything to do with it. The only global. I don't know. I'm just wondering if they have like a global license for some of.
They have no license.
Do they not have any license at all?
No. These are unlicensed. No, Force Lab are unlicensed.
Well, there you go.
But they're based out of China, so what can you do, right?
This is still pretty amazing for unlicensed, though.
It's a great. I tell you, the price as well. What's
the price?
I think it's under $1,000. I think.
Is it really?
The pricing of their stuff's been pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I can see why they sell out really quick. I mean, they don't do, again, they're doing that whole stay under the radar by doing very, very small edition sizes, right?
Yeah, right, of course.
And so they, you know, invariably.
I don't know why I didn't realize they were unlicensed. Maybe,
No,
I mean, I feel like all the stuff they've done is pretty freaking good.
I mean, if they were licensed and they were copying Sideshow's base, gosh.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
No, they're unlicensed.
Yeah. I mean, it is very statuesque, as in like it feels like you're just buying essentially a statue bust, essentially. But it does look good.
Yeah, I think it is resin. I don't think it's not going to sort of be mixed media or anything like that. No. I think it is, but it's really it is impressive.
It's crazy.
It is impressive, but it's massive.
Jason, what do you think about this? If he's there, because I know I just jumped him on, but I remember I talked to Jason a couple days ago. I feel like, or 2 or 3 days ago about this, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't super pumped on it just because of the resin look of it, like the very statuesque look of it.
I think life size, you'd probably want it to be mixed media. I mean,
can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, what were your thoughts on this thing?
This thing is, I'll be honest. So first off, I gotta say, Sideshow did an amazing job when they did it over a decade ago. Okay.
Yeah.
This looks, I don't know. Does it look good? It looks. You ever see the style of a really good miniature painter who does like amazing work on like Warhammer figures? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know where you're going with this.
I can't tell if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, I think on mine it's touch and go. So it has that like miniature aesthetic, the way the paint and the highlights are done, and also the base is a complete ripoff. 1,000%. They did kind of like, and this isn't a jab. I'm just talking openly. They did just like what NYC did, which is they completely ripped off the EFX base. And everybody's like, "Oh, this base is so great." Well, no, it's a complete ripoff. And that's fine, right? But this is, I mean, they literally, I've had a number of Sideshow busts over the years, and they literally took the Sideshow stand and just recast it or scanned it or whatever they did. I don't know. I mean, it's a good offering only because something like this hasn't been offered in some time. But I think for the amount of money they were charging, it's probably best just to like hold out and find one on the secondary market. I just think this has a look to it that just looks, I don't know. It just looks off-putting. It looks cheap to me. It looks cheap. But to each their own, right? It's all subjective. So.
Yeah, well,
I quite like it. I can't be honest with you.
No, and I was
I
was gonna say the same thing, Tony. Like I look at it and I can see what Jason's saying, but at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, it does look pretty good. Like in my opinion, there's some really things to love about it. I think.
But I've never had the Sideshow one, so
exactly.
I'm not an expert on on this character at all.
Right.
But.
And I don't even remember what the Sideshow one looks like, to be honest. So like I'm just looking at this and going, it looks pretty good. It is going to be big, like Parm said. It's going to be a sizable piece.
Huge. It's going to be huge.
Yeah. What's the thought? do signature, like, because Star Wars AU is doing the signature for this. Is
it the artist, or is it? I don't recognize the actor at all. But I
guessing it's an actor, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
Must be.
Does it not matter? Will they not get in trouble for doing something that's for an unlicensed product? I don't know. I don't know how that works with
I don't know
signature
how it
stuff.
works. Yeah, don't know how it works. It's a very low run though. It's only
it's interesting that they've got the SWAU logo on there. I hadn't noticed that. Just seeing that now. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think this is the other thing that Jason had mentioned that we had talked about before. Like, does it matter that Star Wars AU is doing something for an unlicensed company? I don't know. I don't know if it does or not. Like, I don't know how that. I don't know.
I'm surprised they're putting their logo against it.
Right,
right. That's kind of odd. Because they're doing a Slave One as well, and they've got Tamura's signature on that. But I don't know whether that's got the same SWAU or whether that's been done privately. So, given they've done another signature edition, it'd be quite interesting to see, what channel they took to do that.
They take great shots and pictures and everything of their.
It's very professional. It looks like a license. You would think this would be licensed, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's very well done, and I think that's credit to them for doing that. But, yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. It's interesting to think about, like, if you were this company, do you run the risk of it looking too professional? Like, when you do something like this, do you run the risk of Disney being like, hey, what the hell is this? Like, this looks like a licensed product that isn't licensed. Like, you almost think like it would maybe go against you in that way. I don't know. Because with what's going on with NYC, they got to be slightly concerned about everything. I mean, although maybe they're in China and they don't give a shit, but
that's the impression I get because they're in China.
I am surprised though to see. Yeah, I am surprised to see Star Wars AU get involved with the signature on this, right? Because it's kind of like they did the needle signatures with the NYC Slave One. That I think is crossing a little bit of a fine line. And then even if they are involved, I feel like putting their logo on the plaque is a little risque. But again, that's a conversation for another time and another topic. And again, I wasn't trying to slam this piece. I don't think it looks terrible. Don't get me wrong. I don't. Yeah. It looks terrible. It's not necessarily a bad piece, but when you compare it to its initial offering, that's where I think it falls short. If there wasn't anything to compare and contrast it to,
right.
I think the eyes look. I still think it looks good.
Yeah, and I just I don't know what to compare it against, or I have not seen it. So I think I hear.
I think for the price point, it's probably this is as good as you're going to get. If for example Regal were to offer a life-size you'd be talking
forget it.
3-4 times as much, right? And but conversely, that would be the best Gamorrean card bust you'd ever see.
Yeah. Right. And it would be scanned, and it would be all that stuff. So you'd have lineage essentially for that thing. So that's
horses for courses. What do people want in their collections? How much are they willing to pay?
Correct.
And there's clearly enough people. I mean, look, there's 20 of this signature edition.
It's a low run, isn't it? It's a low run.
There's going to be 20 people out there who happily
think about it. Think about it this way: there's people that buy the Sideshow Boba Fett, life size stuff.
Yeah.
Right, and that stuff's not like the most accurate out there, right? It's just not. But it still looks good. It still looks good, and so like, there are those types of collectors that just want that.
Well, I think those people who buy it because it's licensed, because there is lots of options to, you could create your own Boba Fett bust and it would look 100 times better.
You're right.
But for a lot of people, the fact that it's licensed matters, which is absolutely fair enough. And I think it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, because given they've plagiarized Sideshow's base, given what's happened in the community with NYC and stuff, it's kind of interesting to see where we go with
it's pretty crazy,
kind of third party makers. It's
pretty
kind
crazy.
of interesting.
It's pretty nuts, dude. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is interesting. We can talk about this. Hold on one second. Hold on, let me bring this up. This is another thing that just recently came out. Hold on, here we go. So Black Series, right? Is making the Acolyte helmet, which is interesting. It's like you don't realize it until you see it, something like this, how like brown, like you know what I mean, the colors that this thing has. It's interesting.
I mean, I thought it was black in the show, but yeah,
that's what I thought as well. I thought it was the same color as Kylo Ren's helmet.
Yeah,
the show,
it's
at least
the cortosis. It's just the way it comes off in camera, but it's actually this like bronzed like look, which is interesting.
That was pretty cool. What he could do with the helmet was like shutting off the lightsabers or something.
Yeah,
that was cool. It was something different.
Yeah, again, this comes back to the problem that Star Wars has, is that if you introduce anything new or anything like from an extended universe or whatever, you run the risk of everyone going like, why didn't they use this in the sequels or the normal, or the prequels, like, and it's just, that's the problem with introducing anything new into Star Wars. Like it's tough. So, but this is cool though. I mean, it's cool that they're coming out with it already, like fairly quickly,
I think you have to strike while the iron's hot, right? I mean, the problem with a lot of these Disney shows is once the show's aired and it's been a few months, you've kind of lost interest.
Sure.
So I think with a lot of this stuff, it tends to be released around the time.
And this makes sense. I mean, it makes sense for the Black Series helmets to do this. Why wouldn't you? Why would they not? Do this? Like it totally makes sense. So I think that's I think that's a no-brainer for them. But that's pretty cool. That's really neat that they're doing that. Let me see. Let me check real quick. I know there's some prints, by the way, coming out. I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to show them because it's hard to kind of, we don't have like full versions of some of these things, but there will be some prints coming out before Comic-Con as well. And I think probably during Comic-Con.
I saw that post from CC with the comic cover with Luke. That looked really good.
Yes, that did look good. They're also doing a Martin Anson Empire Strikes Back with the multi-layer acrylic paneling or something like that. And I don't know if that's not the same.
Was that like a 3D effect? Was that like a 3D effect?
Yes, but I don't think that's the same as the shadow box thing that came out, right? That's not the same idea.
Didn't look like it.
I don't think so. I think it's a little bit different than that. And so anyway, there will be some, just so everyone knows, there will be some really awesome prints coming out, I think, as well around Sideshow, Comic-Con. CC will absolutely post about that stuff. She's poster crazy right now. Not right now. She's always poster crazy. She loves posters. She loves prints, and she always keeps us up to date, which is really great. I don't think I would be able to know what's coming out if it wasn't for CC posting that stuff. It's super helpful. So anyway, I was talking about this with Jason a couple days ago, where I was like, how does CC how can she even buy prints anymore? Like she doesn't I don't know how she has space for him, like space on her walls to put prints. And I don't know, I don't know if she's gonna have to start swapping out or like at what point, or just maybe she's just gonna be putting them in portfolios. But man, she loves herself some prints, which is awesome. So yeah, we'll see some more of that stuff come out. Otherwise, one of the other topics real quick I wanted to chat about, and I was going to wait till before, but I wanted to talk with you guys about, how you feel in terms of collecting Star Wars at times. Like, does it ever get to be just too much? And like, to the point where you're just like, man, the only reason I say that is because recently I was talking with Jason about this, and we were saying that I think Jason specifically was saying it's nice when you can kind of step away and not necessarily collect something different, like a bunch of something different, but be excited about something different. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I'm really pumped about, some Masters of the Universe stuff coming out at Comic-Con. Like I'm really pumped about, there's a couple things I want to grab. And then I'm getting a couple statues that I'm going to put up in one side. And I'm kind of like mixing it up a little bit more, which is fun. And it's gotten I'll be honest, it's gotten a little bit stale because it's just always, every time I step into my room, it's just a giant, throw up of Star Wars everywhere. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes it gets a little bit stale. And it's nice to have a little bit of something different to be excited about. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? I don't know if you ever have that problem or not, but
I mean, I think it's definitely a thought process that we all go through as collectors, right? Whether we're collecting too much, whether we're collecting too little, am I collecting the right thing? Focus is really important, I think. So whilst it would be nice to mix up the collection and dip your toe in other franchises, how deep does that rabbit hole go? Totally. So and so it's kind of it's a difficult one. I think for me, a lot of it's limited by space predominantly, plus obviously then finances come into it as well. But
of course.
Once your collection room starts to become quite full, quite naturally, you have to be very selective, make fewer collecting decisions, and make sure you're making the right collecting decisions. And that can be quite constraining as well. And perhaps I'm not suggesting it's stressful, but it can be like, you're having to pass on, some stuff because you just don't have the space for it. And you perhaps regret having to, or you have to make decisions about selling stuff that you don't necessarily want to sell.
Right.
And I think I'm going through that right now, to be honest, Matt. I think, my collection is probably at a stage where I'm not going to be able to add a ton of stuff, much more really.
Yeah, sure.
I'm kind of, wanting to, not finish collecting, but see a bit of an endpoint where I'm happy and content with what I've got in my display. It's difficult when Regal Robot released some really cool
difficult
stuff.
I know,
and you're invested in a particular line like the maquettes. Tony and I.
Oh my gosh.
So you're
wouldn't be an episode with us talking about the maquettes.
Yeah, well, we'll have a dedicated episode about maquettes one day.
Got to get another Phil Tippett signature. My goodness.
Yeah. So it's tough, right? And Tony and I talk about this all the time, right? Tony and I talk a lot, and we're always discussing the kind of the direction of our collections because we tend to collect similar things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This leads me on to something that I kind of mentioned just off stream, was that there's some a lot of people know about Jeff Jacobs, who's selling his vintage collection, this kind of amazing vintage collection, which he's amassed over 3 decades. Probably the best collection I've ever seen of vintage carded, mint on card, mint on box. Not just in terms of quantity but quality, but also how it's displayed. He effectively built his house around it and built a museum in his basement, and then he announced that he was basically selling everything. And it made me wonder, what provoked that particular decision. What is it in your, particularly if you've been a collector of that magnitude and at the kind of the upper echelon of collecting, what makes you change, makes you decide that, to go in a different path, because it's a huge decision. Particularly if you've curated and you've collected a particular line and, maybe spent ages trying to accrue some pieces because they're very, very rare. And then think, right, I've done it now, and I think one of the things that he did say that I saw was that he basically said that once he reaches 50, that's something that he's going to contemplate doing, and I think maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you have to give yourself a target and say, right, I'm going to be done collecting at a certain age, and then after that,
See, my issue there is that I still feel like I'll really enjoy this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to think I wouldn't want to keep doing it. I'm just kind of at that place where I think I mentioned this in the last stream or the stream before, where I came to the realization that nobody gives a shit about my collection but me. Right?
It's true,
And
right? I mean, the same with us. Yeah.
and it's hard to get yourself to that place, but once you do, you realize that like no, like your wife doesn't give a shit. She doesn't come into your room and go, wow, like nobody cares, right? Like nobody you invite over is walking in and going, oh, really cool stuff you've spent all your money on. Like nobody gives
Yeah, or what a sensible decision you've made of investing your money.
exactly,
Yeah, you're right.
exactly.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one and no one understands it. And so like if that's the case, if I'm at this place where I understand that nobody cares but me, well then why not just do what I want to do? Right? Like why am I trying to like do what maybe a Facebook group or whoever would want me to do? Why not just do what I want to do? And
Insert hyperdrive name there. No, I'm kidding.
no, I'm just saying any Facebook, any
No,
group,
you're
any
right.
whatever. I'm kind of like, man, damn it, I'm gonna buy a Master of the Universe. I'm gonna buy a He-Man statue. Like that's what I want to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, you definitely should be collecting for yourself. And I think in regards to Jeff Jacobs, I think you pull up a good point, Parm, right? So like the last time I saw anything close to a collection like that was, if you guys remember, being on the Star Wars board. Oh my gosh, going back. Wait, I'm aging myself here. But when Leo DiCaprio was very active on the boards, and one day he just decided to put his entire Star Wars collection up. I think he did it through Sotheby's or something. And it was similar. I don't want to say the same, but it was similar. It had been well curated and thought out and well collected. And one of the things that I remember watching in the interview or in one of the segments when he was talking about selling it wasn't necessarily having the pieces that he enjoyed. It was more of like the search, the hunt, the finding, the sport of it, right? The hobby of it. Kind of like what we're into. It's the hobby of it. It's the discussing and the camaraderie and the, having the piece once you acquire it. And everybody knows this. Like how many times, I mean, I don't want to get to the word grail because we talked about this previously where the word grail is thrown around so frequently that it's kind of lost some meaning. However, just in general, collecting in general, you're hyped for that next piece, or that next Regal Robot release, or I'm seeing everybody get the helmet in and I don't have mine yet. But once you get it, that momentum is over in just a few minutes. It's on your shelf next to 50 or 100 other pieces. And it's not to say that you don't appreciate it. You do. And there's times you look at it and you smile and what have you. But at the end of the day, it's the participatory aspect of it. It's the collecting aspect of it that I think is more the enjoyment. So when you reach a sailing, right, like Jeff has, where if you look at his collection, he pretty much, I mean, is there anything left in a vintage that he doesn't have, right? So I feel like in that sense, and I don't say this, I don't mean in a negative way, no connotation at all, but I say it in the sense that like he's probably reached a point where like you've accomplished a goal, right? It's like, well, I want to climb, Mount Kilimanjaro. You get a quarter of a way there, that's one thing. You get halfway there, that's one thing. But once you get to the top of the mountain, you've now achieved that goal completely. Where is there to go next?
Once you've reached that top of the mountain, do you not want to take out time and enjoy that view? And I think that's the thing that kind of
true.
It's like you've got that collection, and I enjoy looking at my collection, enjoying it, and I agree with you, Jason. A lot of it's about the hunt, and when you do get that piece in, it's then all right. What's the next piece? What's the next big thing that I want to kind of add to my collection, and you kind of almost kind of forget about that, kind of great addition that you've made, and then kind of enjoy and appreciate it. And I think that's that balance I want to find. It's that being content with it. I don't want to sell up, for example, but just being able to kind of enjoy and sit back and say, hey man, this is fun, this is cool, and that's where I think I felt a bit sad with when I saw Jeff, decide to sell his collection. I mean, I again, he's been collecting a long time, right? So, his journey is obviously very, very different, and perhaps he did just get like fed up of it, and the hunt is done, the mission is complete. But it's a shame that you can't just sit back for a few years and just enjoy what you've amassed, right?
Yeah, but again, I agree, right? It's like when you get to the top, enjoy the view. But then I also think there's all these sort of like back and forths that we can do, right? But I think it's a good conversation. If anybody remembers National Lampoon's Vacation, when they get to the Grand Canyon, right? The whole thing is about getting there. They get there, and he's like, "All right, that's it." Like, it's just a big hole, like,
and
like that's it.
And Parm, I think that is the problem, right? Sometimes is that we as addicts and freaking like we're just the worst addicted people in some cases. We really can't. And if you can't do it, then maybe that's the only choice, right? If you get to that end point and you're like, I'm going to sit and enjoy this, but you can't, there's no way you can do that because you've been on the hunt for your entire existence of Star Wars collecting. You know what I'm saying? Like that might just not be possible. You might have to go, if I can't do this, I got to get rid of it.
I'd also be hard pressed to think that like he may be out of collecting Star Wars vintage, but he's a collector at heart. I mean, whatever the next step is,
else.
Yeah, whatever the next step is, he will be collecting something else because that again, you can't just take that feeling of what you participate in and just put it away. Now you can look at something enough times and say, all right, I've enjoyed this. I've been the steward of this collection. I can now move on to somebody else. That's a little bit different, right? But yeah, and then it's kind of like anything in life. The things that you liked when you were 20, you don't like when you're 30, so on and so forth. As you grow and mature and change and have different life experiences, you get into different things. And he might just have his eyes set on something else. But it is a good wake up call to see something like that, because that's a lot of people are just immediately going to look at the financial aspect of it. I feel like a little bit more, and I want to be careful with my choice of words. I think a little bit more of a seasoned collector or an experienced collector is going to look at it in the time that was involved, the amount of time invested, right?
Yeah.
More so than money. So
For sure.
The amount of time invested is just tantamount to anything else.
I think something to think about too is, and this goes to our collections and even things that we might get in the future, is there's also, I feel like there's also more, there's things that you might want to keep longer that have a story behind them, or something like, look at something like, the RS Bausch or the RS AT-AT. We know those people, right? Like these people are lovingly making these helmets. Paulie's sticky hands are all over these freaking helmets, and Rob and all these guys. They're all working hard on these helmets. Like we know them, and they're good people. It makes them better. Like it makes them more like more of a special piece, right? Like
there's a sentimental attachment, which is important, and I think a lot of people have certain pieces in their collection that they'll probably never let go of. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few pieces that he wouldn't part with. But at the same time, I think what's most important is the eye-opening aspect, right? Of what is the end goal to collecting? Because then I'm also seeing examples of people who are going far beyond their means, and they're buying stuff that they may not even necessarily personally like themselves, but they're posting a picture of it or acquiring it just so people can be like, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
But even that, the people who are looking at it and giving a thumbs up and, hey, that's a great piece, and it's a fleeting moment. So you're investing time, effort, energy, and resources for a feedback or a response that again is gone in minutes. And now you're just like, okay, what's the next thing I can do to sort of, it's like when social media first came out and you see those influencers and they're obsessed with how many likes or how many comments, or they're constantly checking, how many, it's that mentality. And I feel like collecting can definitely get dangerous. It can definitely sort of feeder on that side of like, am I making the right decisions?
Sure. Sure.
And I'm gonna state what I stated before, when we were talking about Acolyte. Comparison is the thief of all joy. Once you start comparing your collection to others and saying, well, why isn't mine as good as this? Or it zaps the joy out of collecting. And I think, going back to your comment, Matt, about, nobody cares about your collection really but you. And I think that's an important kind of thing to state to yourself. Nobody really does give a shit about our collections, but ourselves, right? I mean, and I think once you kind of establish that and make sure that you're not trying to compete with anybody, you're only really doing this for yourself, right?
Right. And Parm,
it makes that journey more enjoyable.
The crazy part is that's obvious, but we just don't want to we don't want to admit that, right? Like we don't want to admit that we're literally the only ones that give a shit about our collection. But what's I think kind of freeing about that in a way is that you can go, well, then let me do what I want to do, right? For like sure. I don't need to worry about what other people think. I don't need to worry about what you know, anything else that anybody, what if someone comes over and looks at my collection? Nobody gives a shit about your collection. You don't have any friends anyway. It doesn't work. Don't worry about it. So like, just enjoy your collection and just freaking like get what you want to get and what you want to look at. If you're sitting in your office, like, what do you want to look at? Right. Like that, I think is a little bit more freeing. And so like, it's nice. Tony?
Yeah, I was just gonna add. I agree with everything you guys have said. For me, there's a real social side to. I mean, I don't collect to be sociable, but
yeah,
there is a nice side to collecting. You know, like me and Palmer collecting the maquettes. So we, you know, every time there's a maquette released, you know, we'll talk about it. You know, we'll have an opinion on it, and you know, it's nice to be able to speak to someone, because otherwise this could be quite a solitary experience. And I think this is where, you know, channels like this, you know, the Facebook groups, you know, have been very positive, but then you've got the other side of them where you are, like Jason said, you know, people just going crazy, you know, spending, you know, and I'm seeing it every day. It'll be the same people posting stuff every single day. Look what I've got, and they're spending thousands a week. I mean, if you've got the funds, fair play to you, all power to you. But I've seen so many people flash in. They'll be in for a year, buy everything up, and then they're gone. You know, and I don't collect. I collect because I love Star Wars. I want to surround myself with things. I grew up as a kid.
Yeah.
But it's taken me 5 years, because you were talking about buying other stuff.
Yeah.
I was buying 4 years ago. I was buying like Iron Man.
Yeah.
You know, Hot Toys, and I still can't. And that was because I got FOMO'd into buying.
Yeah.
You know, and I like Marvel, but I don't love it. I don't love it, and I don't have the room. So it's taken me years just to sort of really go back to what I enjoy, which is the original trilogy.
Of course,
that's what I really enjoy. And I think I finally got to a point where I haven't stopped, because I enjoy collecting. You know, I do enjoy it. There's a buzz to it, but what I don't enjoy is getting something in every single week or every single month. What I want to do is wait for a piece, anticipate it. That's why I don't mind waiting 2-3 years for something. I know some collectors go, "What the hell are you talking about?" But I'm quite, I've become quite patient.
Well, Tony, because getting something in every week or every month also comes with payments. Like that's so frustrating. It's like all of a sudden you're like putting out money every month that you're like, what am I doing? Like it's just ridiculous. You know?
But just like anything too, Matt, I think Tony makes a good point, is you start to become immune to it. If you get stuff in all the time, you do it. You become desensitized to it. You become immune to it. And, you know, when I see things like you said, people just going ham, and I've had people ask me, like, what is this guy doing that, like, he's just got all this money to drop? And I'm like, well, I mean, there's, you know, things that we can get into the semantics of it all. But at the same time, I think some people are coming into it, right, maybe now or last week or last year, and they're looking at collections of people who have been collecting for 5 years, 10 years, and they're playing catch up. And it's like, you can't play catch up with somebody who has a 10-year head start. If somebody has a 10-year head start, you're going to pull your hair out trying to catch up with them. Right.
Yeah. Right.
But the FOMO is there, the hype is there. And then I start seeing some real dangerous things. Like, we all know that being behind the scenes, you know, being involved in groups and you know, working closely with other people, things like that. We see things where people are borrowing money off of friends and, you know, hurting relationships and doing all these things to acquire pieces. And that's where it becomes like, where is collecting, you know, a healthy thing or an unhealthy thing, right? Then it comes down to even things like space or IPs, like Matt said. You know, nobody really cares except for us. Like, nobody in my home is like, oh wow, look at that new whatever you just got. Like, I very rarely get that. I'll get a or a head nod. Oh yeah, that's nice. Which I'm sure we all know about. But at the end of the day, you got to do it for yourself. And I think if you're doing it for, you know, the nostalgia and, you know, that sentiment, attachment that you have, and then just overall, it's this here. It's us talking.
Yeah.
It's us, you know, visiting each other and hanging out and seeing each other when and where we can. I think that's the biggest benefit of of it all. But
Yeah.
I also enjoy, like Matt was saying, going to get a He-Man figure or whatever. I mean, you guys know for years we'd be doing a show, group therapy, and a lot of times I'd be working. I'd be doing a show for work, and I'd walk by a GameStop or whatever, and I'd go in and buy a Black Series figure. And I have a few. I would like the way Akbar looked, or this Gamorrean guard has great paint applications, and I'd get kind of snarked at, like people would laugh, but I'm like, whatever. I mean, I like it. I'm collecting for me. I'm not collecting for anybody else. I think it looks cool. Like, and that's it. And and I have a few other random things like
Dude,
me and
that's
Matt
why
were
I'm
talking about.
still. That's why, Jason, I'm still tempted every now and then by. I still see some of these Funko Pops every now and then. I'm like, that looks awesome.
Dude, I do the same. I actually buy them sometimes.
Every now and then, dude.
If there's a character I really like that represents a specific, part of a show or a scene, or I remember I bought Prison Mike from The Office. I just thought it was hysterical. I was like, I gotta have this. This is a cool piece, Breaking Bad, whatever. But same thing with other small little bits, like whether it's, we were talking earlier about He-Man, and you're like, oh, like I was like, yeah, I Trap Jar and Beatsman, and I like the way these characters look. They remind me of my childhood. I have a whole collection of not Transformers per se, but why can't I think of his name right now? The guy with the tape deck in his chest. Wow, why am I at a blank?
Oh,
Man of
Transformer?
Arms.
Yeah, the Transformers with the audio one. But I have a whole collection of variations of him, from exclusives to different releases. I have a whole shelf full of all of that particular Transformer.
Yeah.
So it's just like one of those things where it makes me happy. I enjoy it. I like it. I find a new piece, puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is something I want to talk about, but it kind of goes with this. Maybe it's a little bit off a little bit, but I think just as much as we kind of want, to be happy with our collection and all that stuff, it's interesting because we've seen it in recent bits where, even some manufacturers, some makers of some of these things, they want the same for everyone as well, right? They want everyone to be happy with their collection and to feel like their collection is it's just going in a good direction, and actually look at what RS recently put out, right? Where they're coming out with the Bausch helmet, and they're concerned. They're asking basically everybody, like, hey, do you want these things to come out all at once? Do you want the Bausch helmets to come out all at once, or do you want them to come out in batches? Right. And it's interesting conversation because you don't really hear that from people a lot. Right. And I feel like that's a really nice thing to get from them, because they're actually concerned that somebody's going to put this up on eBay, or somebody's going to put this up, whatever, before someone else has their helmet, right? You're going to be able to buy this from a flipper, essentially. I think it's nice to have those conversations. I would like more manufacturers to have those kind of conversations that benefit the collector, right? Sometimes they just make things and they just don't give a shit. They're just, take our money and that's it. It's nice when we can start having these kind of things where somebody actually cares, right? Somebody actually cares what our experience is. And and that's why I like being able to collect stuff from people that we know that are doing that kind of thing. I think Regal Robot does a freaking great job with their stuff, and they put a lot of love and heart into the stuff that they make. And so is it expensive? Yeah. But do you feel like you get what you paid for in a lot of ways? Yeah, I do.
100%.
I think you do. I think it's nice seeing them go over to Lucasfilm and scan things. They're putting a lot of effort and work into things. It's just nice. It's nice to put your money into those kind of things. So anyway, and I do feel like some producers, some makers like Sideshow even are putting more effort into things lately. That's great to see. That's great to see, and hopefully it benefits all of us. So,
just add to what you were saying earlier about the collecting for yourself and not for other people. I think I actually did that a lot when I bought some statues, because certain people recommended them.
On this show.
If we're being honest, I think I said a few months ago I sold my Obi-Wan statue.
Yeah.
And whilst it's a great piece, and I'm looking at my other statues, I just don't think statues are for me. And I think initially they look cool, but I think I did sort of think I was given into peer pressure, I think, and I just wanted to, like, they were cool pieces, don't get me wrong, but I think I was doing it because you guys are like, oh yeah, statues are cool. I was like, oh, cool.
But Nathan, it's interesting because that's part of the
We've all done it. We've all done
that's
it.
part of the collecting journey, right? Like
Yeah.
you kind of falling into figuring out what it is that you actually care about, what you actually want is part of it.
Well, exactly, and that's why I thought, because I know what I've watched your journey, Matt. Like you had Hot Toys, and then you went to statues and whatnot. And I thought I might do the same thing. I might be like, oh wow, I don't really want many Hot Toys anymore. I just want statues.
Right. Sure.
And I went back. I think
the opposite.
I liked them. Don't get me wrong, but I think like I've said before, that I like creating a scene and
of course
a diorama and stuff, and I like the posability. But yeah, so I think initially I did sort of I think I pre-ordered it was the NYC or one of the Qui-Gon. I can't remember who did the Qui-Gon, but I ended up cancelling the pre-order.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, I don't necessarily want this. I just got it because people were talking about it, and and I the Padme I live ordered on stream, and I was like,
I love it.
Don't get me wrong, don't feel like you forced me into
no.
I bought it with my own grown-up money.
Well, not to mention, Nathan, all of us have been peer pressured throughout the group, throughout all the it just happens. It's one of those things where you get excited and you see something that other people are excited about, and you get that FOMO or you get whatever, right? And you buy into it.
Matt, you were definitely one of the biggest I think encouragers of that. There's times where I'm like, I don't know, come on, you gotta get it, you have to, come on, look at that thing, look at it, get it. And I'm like, then I'm sitting with it on my shelf, and I'm like, why'd I get this?
The reason why I have the Falcon cockpit was mainly because you were talking about it so much.
Obsessively, he was on that. Remember,
and then
Nathan?
You cancelled yours.
I know.
I was like, oh, okay.
I know.
Cool.
And then, but Nathan, isn't that a 6 scale thing though? Like you can actually
exactly, and I love it. So
yeah,
I don't regret that at all.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I love mine.
I also have the Jedi Starfighter on order, and I have no idea where I'm putting it.
Jeez,
that thing's huge.
But
there's a lot of people who bought that Falcon based off Matt's enthusiasm, because he was busting at the seams of that. But I always respected the fact that Nathan, a lot of people I feel like shied away from Hot Toys because of what you just said, like, oh, I'm graduating to statues, or I'm graduating to this. And I say it all the time. I'm like, look, I'm sorry, but they just make an amazing product. And it's so hard when you see a new figure to not be like, that's awesome. Like, that's a great piece. That would fit perfect at any collection. And then you hear it's kind of like the two characters on each shoulder. Like, you don't need that. You don't need a Hot Toy. What are you doing buying that? Like, oh, look at it. It's so great looking. You got to get that. And it's like, you get so overwhelmed. So, hats off to you for sticking to something that you like. Because
I agree.
I didn't really realize it at the time, but I just thought, I was getting characters that I liked. I wasn't just getting random statues, but I think I've come back. I'd much rather when I realized I'd much rather buy 3 or 4 Hot Toys than one statue. Yeah, and that's when I thought, well, why am I buying statues then if I'd rather spend money? And we were talking earlier about space. I've had to put my statues over in like this random corner because there's no more space.
No, totally.
For anything else.
And that honestly, that's part of what affects how you feel about something, right? When you've got to put something like I've mentioned to Jason a couple times, like there's times where I've got to put something on a top shelf that has no light in my room, and I don't really want it that much anymore. Like once I have to do that, like what's the point? Like I'm not looking at it and like as much anymore. It's not that interesting anymore. Like
It does defeat the purpose. I agree, Matt.
It defeats the purpose. It's like you got this thing to actually have on a shelf and be out and bold and in the light and looking at it.
I'm actually about to, for that reason, Matt, because the bottom shelf figures, it's like they're right at the bottom. It's kind of they're not sort of in view. So I'm about to raise them up. Details. And
one thing I have found, particularly with selling some stuff, recently, is once it's boxed up and gone, I don't miss it.
I know
you don't miss it, right?
No,
you don't miss
it. Never do.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of important. These are just things, right? And there's some stuff that I clearly have, a lot of sentimental value with, which I'd never part with. But there are certain things which, once I've made that decision, it's really important to box it up though, because I think once it's out of sight, mentally you're ready to let go. But while it's still sat on that shelf and you're still enjoying it,
and I think. And Parm, that the when Nathan was like, Matt, you got rid of your Chewbacca, that's crazy. And it's like, well, yeah, like it does sound crazy, but once I made that decision and I got it out, it felt so much like I had so much more room in this room, and it was worth everything to get that out of here. It's the most amazing thing that I think anybody can purchase as a collectible. I think it's just incredible. It really is incredible.
How long have you had it for? 2-3 years?
I had it. I don't know, Jason. I'm not quite sure how long I had it for.
What I mean is,
I think around 2020.
You've enjoyed having it in your collection for a decent amount of time.
Yes.
So you've kind of got your money's worth.
Well, and that's the other thing to think about is like when I sell things, I don't feel like even if I don't get a bunch of extra money for selling something, if I only get what I paid for it, I'm not too bothered by that because I used it. Like I had a great time with it and I enjoyed it while I had it in my collection.
Well,
it's not the worst.
Sorry, but just with the Obi-Wan statue that I sold, the guy that was buying it off me, he asked if he could pay me in installments.
Yeah, sure.
And then I ship it out when he's paid it in full. And I was like, yeah, that suits me because you're paying me the money, but then I can enjoy it for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And it suited me quite well because I was a bit hesitant at selling it at first.
Yeah.
And it eased me into selling it, I think, because I got to enjoy it for a bit. And then I realized it's nice, it's cool, but I don't love it as much as I thought it was.
And that's interesting. I feel, Parm, when you mentioned getting something out and not missing it, the Maju cases that I used to have behind me, I don't ever miss those. Not one time have I gone, I wish I still had those. It was adding so much more space to like so much it was cramping my space so much more. Once I got them out, I was like, this is so nice. It's so nice to have more space.
You got them for your Hot Toys, though, didn't you? Initially?
I got them for initially for my Hot Toys, but then when I stopped, I used it for helmets, and then I sold some of the helmets, but I just put the helmets in a different place. So it's just it's just so much more space in a small room. Again, this is a small room. Jason's been here; he knows how small my room is. It's tiny, so. I can only collect really in this spot. I have a couple things in our little theater room thing, but I try to keep it mainly to here. So Greg has a good question. What's one thing in your collection you'll never sell? I can go first because I'm pretty positive about this. I don't think I'll ever sell XM Luke. I don't know why, but it's my favorite thing I think I've ever purchased. I don't know why. I just love it to death. It just represents Luke to me, in my opinion. The way he's looking up, you can tell he's looking at what he's gonna go do, and just the whole I just love it. I think it's incredible. So, what about you guys?
Come to me in a minute.
What about you, Nathan?
I guess I don't know. I mean, I've got some autographs, posters, which are quite obviously unique in a way that it's quite hard to get. I've got my Clone Wars one with like 5 of the actors' names on it,
right?
Which is quite cool. But then in terms of actual pieces, I mean, for me, it would be my Dark Side Anakin hot toy because that was my first. It was my favorite character, and it was my first ever hot toy. So I think
good looking hot toy.
Yeah, and I think I'd have to sell my whole collection before I sold that one. I think.
Yeah, it's good.
So,
Parm?
probably that.
I think for me, if I had to sell everything but just keep something, it would be my original vintage figures.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but which one? You can only keep one.
Oh no, I've got to keep my childhood ones, please. No, if it was only one, Jesus.
No, you can lump them together. That's fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. That's funny, dude. It's okay. That makes sense. Tony, are you?
It would probably have to be my Regal Robot Chewbacca because just the sacrifice I had to make to even get it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was an expensive piece.
Yeah, to sell a lot of my collection to get it.
People don't realize how until you've either seen it in person or have it in your collection, how ridiculous it is. It's incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah,
it really is.
It is very impressive in person.
It blows my mind. Jason?
I'll be honest. I think for me, that's a very difficult question for two reasons. One, I've been collecting since I was a kid. I know a lot of us have. It starts off with sports cards, comic books, etc. Right? I have a lot of stuff that I kept from when I was a child, and it has a lot of sentimental attachment. It doesn't have any real monetary value, but it has the emotional value. So it's stuff like that. But if it was any one piece, honestly, I don't know. I don't really mind selling things because there's always something else sort of around the corner, right? Yeah. And there's always something else to look forward to, something else to get into. I think it would have to be, I don't want to name it specifically, but it would be a Vader related piece that I'm pretty attached to. I think like if it was one of those situations, like if your house was burning down and you had to grab one thing, like, or, if times were, if there was an extenuating circumstance and you had to sell everything and liquidate it, that would be the item, I think, would be this one Vader piece that I have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question, Greg. And I think that
questions like that are good, that make you really think for a minute. It puts your collection and your mindset towards collecting into perspective.
Yeah, it is. And it's a good ending point too. I think that was a good thing to end on. So, guys, I appreciate everyone in the chat hanging out. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Jason, CC, and I are always so grateful for you guys for jumping on and chatting with us and spending your day with us, or part of your day with us. So,
especially as we've got such a big day tomorrow.
It's a huge day tomorrow.
What's tomorrow?
It's coming home. It's coming home tomorrow.
I don't get it.
England and Spain are playing.
Oh,
the Euros.
And supposedly England will win, but if it's up to them, they won't. So
I've been
always getting in their way.
I've been not to put my information out there. I've been sick again, guys. I've kind of been off the grid a little bit, just a little under the weather. So I'm
you
not
and your wife, right?
Yeah, but me primarily. I've been schedule's just crazy. So like, I'm coming out to visit you soon, but I've been like jammed, like totally jammed with work. Which I was sharing with you, and I actually got to share a little bit of that with Parmindo, which was cool. I've been jammed with finishing that up, plus just being sick, and then I get a couple surgeries in between. So like I feel like I haven't had like a minute to just decompress. And I was actually sleeping when the stream started, so it was nice to wake up and jump on for a little bit.
That's good.
and get the it's always nice to be able to chat with you guys and hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, killer. And I think the next time, hopefully CC can make it too. We're gonna try. I don't know if it'll be something that we can work out with you guys, Parm, Tony, Nathan, or Rob, or anybody, but we are gonna try when CC and Jason come out for Comic-Con to do some sort of stream. Especially since they're out here. I don't know how we'll do it. This is a small room and it's made for me to be able to stream like this. I don't know how that will happen, but maybe we'll figure something out.
Dude, I don't think people realize like when you say it's a small room. So like if you want to go in Matt's room and look at something, he's like, hey, check out the statue I have, or check out this, his new speakers I got. Like Matt has to step out so you can step in.
It's not that small.
I'm kidding. It's not that bad.
It's not that small.
I'm joking.
But it is small. I mean, Tony, I would imagine it's about as small as where you got your.
Yeah, mine's probably smaller.
I mean, you can literally take a couple steps to the other side of the collection. You know what I mean? It's like
I'd like to see Tony get up and leave the room on camera one day. I'd like to see like how he renewed it.
Little B-roll. That's never going to happen.
I love it. Yeah, no,
he's not got any trousers on, so.
Well, yeah, there is that. There is that.
I tell you, it's an interesting topic of conversation at some point to talk about collecting in a small space and just the challenges, what you have to deal with.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think there's certain things you have to deal with, mainly just being very picky about what you bring in and out. And some people don't have to do that, which is great, but it's a valuable thing to, I think it's actually makes your collection kind of better in a way, because you really have to curate what you want and don't want, So
yeah, you have to be much more conscientious about what you're buying. I think there's a lot of benefit. Some people look at it as a bad thing. I think there's a lot of pros to having limited space, because then you don't realize how much junk you end up with when you have a large amount of space.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you guys for hanging out. We will be back again, probably around San Diego Comic-Con, I would imagine. If we do something before that, maybe, I don't know if it'll be Acolyte or something else, but yeah, we'll be back, and we'll let you guys know beforehand what we're going to do. So, all right, guys, thank you. Bye.